Hey guys, I'm back, and I thought I'd do a video on gear that I sent home throughout the trip, gear that didn't work for me, or gear that I just plain didn't use, and why I sent that home. So let's go and start over here. Uh, Crocs. So I used these for camp shoes, and they were fine. I used them early on. I had no problem with them. They serve their purpose well. But really, the main reason I packed them at all was because I was concerned about whether or not my shoes were going to fit. And I think it's a pretty good idea to have something. I heard a lot of people hiking in Crocs when their shoes turned out to not work for them, or they didn't fit. Their feet outgrew the shoe before they had a chance to change them out. So I don't really regret having them early on in the beginning, but once I realized that my shoes worked just fine, I decided that as camp, yeah, I decided that at least in the desert and for most of the trail, camp shoes are kind of unnecessary. You can walk around in trail runners. It's not like if you're using big heavy hiking boots, I understand, but most people are carrying and wearing light trail runners, so it's like walking around in running shoes. They're pretty comfortable, they drive pretty fast, they breathe pretty well. Yeah, they smell kind of bad after a while, but it's not the end of the world, and these are fairly heavy. Okay, maybe you can get some really, really light ones, but I had no problem. Once I got rid of them, I had no problems. I would say that way further on in the trail up in Washington, when everything was wet all the time, there were a couple of times in towns when wish I had something to walk around other than my wet trail runners, because in Washington everything you own is wet all the time. There's nothing you can do about it. So there were those minor moments that I thought, maybe I'd like some flip flops or something, but I made it work. It wasn't the end of the world, and it saved me a chunk of weight not having to carry these things around. So I ditched those pretty early on. All right, moving over. Now, this was the lid to my backpack. I had a Deuter ACT 050 plus 15, which thankfully was actually designed to be able to. It's kind of a transformer pack, and I would highly recommend it to anybody considering a through hike who is not too deep into the ultralight world yet, and they'd like to kind of dip their toe in the water. It's not ultralight. With all of the bells and whistles on the pack, I think it comes in just over 3 pounds. Once I took stuff off, chopped off some extra straps, I was able to get it down below 3 pounds, which is okay. It's fine. It had a nice suspension system. It was good. So I liked my pack, but it had this lid on it, and thankfully the lid could come off. And something that everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people start off in the beginning is packed with lots and lots of organization and storage space and various pockets that they can put all these little tiny things in. You don't need all that. What you really want is a big tube that's easy to shove stuff in, and then with some large outside storage so that you can access things that you're going to need throughout the day without getting into your pack. So a big front mesh pocket is great, big side water bottle pockets, some hip belt pockets to get stuff to carry stuff while you're hiking, so you don't have to take off the pack at all. It's all about efficiency, and this just kind of slowed up the process. It was an unnecessary amount of organizational options. I didn't need the pocket on top. The main pocket was fine as long as you have some outside. So I chopped that off. Most people will do the same thing. All right, moving over. This is the op sack. It came with my sack. It's a good piece of equipment. I know some people who would just use this, but because I was carrying the sack, it was kind of unnecessary, and it made fitting all my food in the sack a little cumbersome because it all had to fit. I mean, it's a kind of a narrow bottom, and it doesn't stretch out or anything. It's not like the bottom of a platypus that kind of has that gusseted or whatever you'd call that, where it spreads out and it ends up kind of flat. No, it's just a big square. So I ended up leaving that at home after a while, then never regretted it. It was fine. But that didn't save me a ton of weight. I just left it at home because I didn't really need it anymore. All right, moving over here. Bladders, specifically the Sawyer squeeze bags that come with them, dump them, throw them away. They're completely useless. They will pop within a week. The Sawyer squeeze bags are terrible. If you insist on using a bladder with your Sawyer squeeze, get an Evernew bladder. They last a little bit longer. The platypus bladders don't fit. Not all of them. I heard that maybe the really small, brightly colored, I don't know if they're half a liter or 1 liter bags, did work with the Sawyer squeeze. The threading matched up, maybe. But I know from experience that the larger ones, I had a 2 liter one, they changed the threading so it no longer matches. So Evernew, however, does make bladders that match. Now, I will say that even though Evernew makes a bladder that matches, it still popped on me at a very inconvenient time. It popped on me in the middle of the Sierras, so I'm never going to carry bladders again. It's just not worth the risk of losing your ability to carry water. I'm just going to carry light smart water bottles, and I'm not even going to carry Camelback this time. Just smart water bottles, some Gatorade bottles, stuff like that. Those things are indestructible. I never had one pop on me. Even my dirty one that I was squeezing, I went almost 1,000 miles without popping. It was totally fine. So I would recommend against bladders. A lot of people use them. A lot of people make them work, but they pop frequently. So I would recommend against bladders. All right. Now this was something I didn't have any issue with, except the fact that I just didn't use it. This was a little titanium skillet and a small fishing kit that I picked up from a hiker box in Big Bear, sent it home, then had it sent back to me for the Sierras. I thought, oh, I'll do some fishing up in the Sierras, and there is great fishing in the Sierras. Don't get me wrong. If you enjoy fishing, really enjoy fishing, and want to make that part of your hike, those fish are stupid and starving. Carry a little rod, some line, hooks, sinkers. Just put a little piece of Spam on the end. Oh my, you will catch so many fish, no problem, up in those high mountain lakes. Great fishing. I even had some fun with somebody's full-size pole that I was hiking with at the time. But for me, with my style, I just didn't need it. It didn't fit in with my hiking style and my schedule. I don't take breaks. I hike pretty much until dark. And by the time I got into camp, the mosquitoes were so bad in the Sierras that I didn't want to spend any time outside of my tent that I didn't absolutely have to, which is another reason why I'm going no-cook, means less time out of my tent when I'm in the Sierras. But a little off topic. Anyway, so fishing just didn't really work with my schedule, but I have no problem with it. If you want to make that part of your hike, awesome, go for it. Fishing is great in the high Sierras. Now, underneath all of it, kick this stuff off. Underneath all of it was my biggest piece of disappointment. This is a Therm-a-Rest Pro Light small torso length pad by, I don't know what mile it is, Coon Creek Cabin. I think it's mile 200 and something. This thing had popped. I started with this and a Z-Lite torso length pad, and I was kind of alternating if it was really, if I was sleeping on some hard ground, I'd just put them both underneath my torso and sleep under that. If I wanted to, I could extend and put the foam pad under my legs, and that was fine in the beginning, and it was okay while I was getting used to sleeping on the ground. But I get, after this one popped, I sent it home, and I don't regret sending it home. After a while, you just stop caring. You don't need you get better at picking campsites where you're on soft ground. You don't sleep on cement. You don't sleep on hard, packed ground. You don't sleep on rock. You pick areas that are cushioned. That means they'll be softer on you and they'll be warmer. So I don't regret sending this home. Not to mention, once it popped, and everything in the desert is spiky. Everything in the desert, all the plants, there's so many thorns and cactus spines everywhere that I didn't even know where the pop was. But I would blow it up. It was such a small pop that I would blow it up and it seemed like it would be fine. I'd wake up halfway through the night laying on the ground. So I sent this thing home. I don't think I'm ever going to do the inflatable pad again. It's just, once it's popped, it's dead weight. You can't use it for anything unless you fix it. And finding those tiny little puncture holes is really difficult. It's not easy unless you have a bathtub, access to a bathtub. Even then it's kind of hard. It took me a while to find the hole on this. I did patch this when I got back after I finished the trip so that it wouldn't just be garbage, but I have no desire to take this again. So again, I would kind of recommend against the inflatable pads if you can manage with the foam ones. They're idiot proof. They're not gonna pop. Eventually they will kind of graham cracker down into just about nothing. You'll have to replace them, but they're not gonna pop. They're not gonna fail on you like this one did, and most people did have that experience with their inflatable pads. I didn't meet too many people who never had a pop. Alright, well, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, put it down. I love answering questions. I love helping you guys, especially anybody who's really considering a thru hike. So, happy to help. Yeah, put them down in the comment section below, and I will answer you as quickly as I possibly can. Alright, see you later, guys. Bye-bye.